Right, so other news are making headlines at this hour. DRC's conflict-driven hunger crisis is worsening as violence in the eastern provinces surge, forcing families to flee once again. More and more people are arriving at overcrowded camps where there's a lack of food, sanitation and shelter. Now, in DRC, the WFP is said to have tripled emergency response beneficiary reaches in the east from an average of 400,000 people in May of 2023 to an average of 1.3 million people today. So to take this discussion further, we are going to be joined via video link by UN WFP Regional Director Menghestab Haile. A very good afternoon to you, and thank you for joining us on the SABC at this hour.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
It's obviously concerning given the reports that have emerged. And so for those who've just tuned in, perhaps you could just please paint that picture for us. How dire is the situation in the DRC as we speak?
As we speak, the situation there is really bad. And just to give you a context, I was there 6 months ago, and I thought it would never be worse than what I saw. Today, the situation is just unbearable and unacceptable. With women, children, no space for them, and at the same time, you know, with the rains coming, with no food, it is a dire crisis.
Menghestab, thank you for those opening remarks. Perhaps you could speak to some of the contributing factors to this escalating humanitarian crisis, more specifically this hunger crisis that we're watching unfolding in real time.
DRC is one of the richest countries in Africa in terms of what it has in natural resources. But the conflict that we have in the east, 3 provinces in the east, people have been displaced. And people have been displaced. I have met people who have been displaced 3 times. So when you are displaced repetitively, you can't produce. The children are not going to school. And so the combination of not being displaced every now and then, and with no food and with no other access to food is really sad for a country that in the heart of Africa, which we consider is one of the richest places.
And so because this conflict and the situation is multi-layered, perhaps you could talk to what is being done and what can be done to eradicate the humanitarian crisis within the DRC, perhaps also focusing on which are the most affected regions.
I think the solution for this is peace. Without peace, we cannot change what is happening. As I said, it is a natural resources rich country, but without without peace, we can't solve the problem. And that peace is not only, it's a regional issue. The African countries have to deal with this. The neighboring countries have to deal with this. And the children, let me tell you one story. I asked the child, a mother told me about her child. She said, what do you think the role model of this child is? And I didn't have an answer. And she said, those fighters who are killing others, he wants to be like them. And when you have children growing like that, and you know, what are we growing them for? What are they going to be when they grow up?
Yeah, which actually brings me to my next point, because beyond justice, truth, even just peace-building initiatives and conflict management, I wanted to look at the issue of gender equality and women's empowerment in that, girls' empowerment, given their specific needs as well, and the inclusive approach that needs to be taken, apart from the hunger crisis that we're obviously also witnessing.
You know, when I think about what is happening to the women, you know, I have a mother, we have children. And it's just unacceptable. About 60 women are raped every day. And that is very sad. They just go to fetch wood for their families and they get raped. They get raped in the camps. There are brothels in the camps. So for women and girls, the place is not a place. And that all of us together must resolve that. And as I said, but that can not only be resolved if we don't have peace in DRC.
And because agencies and organizations have been flagging the deteriorating situation for quite some time, perhaps you could also at this point speak to the role of the UN WFP at this point, what it's done to assist in this dire situation.
Just to give you a background, I have been there 5 times since I became a regional director 2 years. 5 times, and 9 months ago when I asked my headquarters saying this is unacceptable, let's scale up, meaning that we put the situation at WFP's level at the highest level possible. At that time we were assisting about 400,000 people. Today we are supporting around 1.3 million people. There are 800,000 people just around outside Goma. Now, the recent one, when I came back 2 weeks ago, so I was there 2 weeks ago. Yeah. There are 130,000 more displaced just in those crowded places. So what I thought 9 months was a crisis, now, and we scaled up, and now we have much more crisis within crisis. And the World Food Program is, obviously, we are dependent on resources from the donor communities. Yeah. Just for the next 6 months, if we are going to maintain what we are doing, we need around $425 million US. And without that, and the problem is, there is no other alternative for those people. If we don't support them where they are, then they will move into Goma. And you would not want to imagine what that would mean.
Well, speaking of which, resources, donations and support, thank you for highlighting that. I even want to look at international players and continental players that need to be part of this value chain in stopping and mitigating the crisis unfolding there. What are your thoughts from your vantage point?
When you look at DRC, we look for solutions in the world. We talk about climate change. DRC is the seat of the Congo Basin, and it is one of the most efficient carbon sinks, but we are losing it. We are losing it very fast. We want batteries for our mobile phones. We want batteries for our cars. Where does it come? It comes from DRC, but at what cost? And why shouldn't we help that country to resolve its issues? Because with this conflict, children are not growing, and at the same time we are losing the forest, which is important for every one of us. The situation in DRC is a combination of insecurity and degrading the land that we have there. And I'm really concerned the world that seems not to see that DRC offers the world the solutions that we are looking for.
Menghestab, earlier on as well, and thank you for those sentiments. Just as we conclude, you spoke about role models and, what children are experiencing, what they're looking at, and what examples they also have. How has education been impacted? How's the healthcare or health of citizens or displaced people also been affected this time around? Issues of malnutrition as well coming to the fore. I mean, if you're going to look at preserving agricultural land and how that can also assist, but there is insecurity. How are people able to balance that and try and survive at this point?
They are not. Children are not going to school. There are no clinics working. Women are dying from very minor illnesses. Then malnutrition is over the roof. So all the combinations that you could imagine will happen to someone is happening there. And that's why I said about the child, is that child does not see there is a way out. But one positive thing that while I was going back and forth, what we have tried to do is there are 2 universities still functioning, one in Goma and one in Bukavu. We recruited 150 students because normally when you graduate from there, you don't get any jobs anyway. So we recruited about 150 students, and we have now put them into the camps to help their communities. And we are looking at how we can actually make them the peacemakers and the change agents.
Menghestab, thank you for joining us on the SABC at this hour and for weighing in. We'll continue to monitor developments on that front. We're shining a spotlight on the humanitarian crisis, more specifically the hunger crisis that's unfolding in the DRC. UN WFP Regional Director Menghestab Haile really just weighing in on what's transpired there to date. Thank you to him for joining us on the SABC at this hour.